this is Denise here. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you liked the previous videos that I've done. Today, I'll be doing analysis of Aurelle EC that's actually launching in Tampines. And guess what? This will be the only EC that will be next to an MRT as well as a mall. So at 1,006 to 1,007 PSF, is it still worth it to buy? Today I have something special for you. I'll be doing the full floor plan analysis of this project and also doing a deep dive whether it is still sustainable to buy in at this pricing. Without further ado, let's launch into the details of this project. So Aurelle will actually be located in Tampines Street 62. If you have driven by the area itself, you'll notice that what you see now is just buildings. It's really like a new township over there. And what Aurelle actually serves to do is actually the second EC that will be in the entire plot itself. So let's take a look at the details of this project. It will actually be launching this year, 2025, and the TOP is expected to be 2028, probably first quarter, which is actually pretty fast. Total number of units will be 760, over 14 blocks and 14 story. The project itself mostly will have north-south orientation units, but one thing I noticed is the number of car parks. It only has 608, which is just 80% of the total number of units. So this already itself is something that I have concerns about, because I know that for ECs, it's largely for big families and own stay. So, it's not really an investment project unit where there's one bedder, two bedders. They all start from 3 to 5. So this is something of a red flag that I'm a bit concerned about. If you have this concern too, leave a comment below. They do have a lot of bicycle lots. So the number of bicycle lots total will be 190 in basement 1 and level 1. So as you can see, they're trying to encourage people to actually not use cars so much, to go car light and actually start using MRT and all. However, the MRT for the Cross Island Line will only be ready in 2030. Whereas this project, let's say if it's TOPing in 2028, then maybe 1 or 2 years that residents don't actually have access to the MRT yet. This is similar to the situation at Tampines Trillion and City Life, where the MRT, the downtown line, only came up during where they were staying at the project itself. So now let's take a look at the location of Aurelle. Where are we actually located? So if you're familiar with Tampines, this is along Street 62, where it's next to all the industrial areas itself, and it's located right here on this side. Okay, next to it is actually Tenet, and then you have the TPE right across. So right across this TPE is actually Pasir Ris. So this side is actually bordering Pasir Ris as well as Tampines. You have Tampines over this side, and then you have Pasir Ris over this side, where you have like condos like Tenet, Pallet and all that on the other side, and then you can walk to Pasir Ris MRT over here. But right now where we are at is actually Tampines North. This is really the new area. If you look at the master plan, there's a lot of developments that's going to happen. Firstly, we're going to have Parktown. It's actually an integrated development. It's going to have a bus interchange, a mall, community center right here below, something similar to lay residences, and then we're just located here. So in future, right, if you want to use the train station, it will be the Tampines North MRT. But do note that this will actually be ready in 2030, so it's likely that for the first 2 years, they may have a shuttle, or either that you may have to take a bus all the way to Tampines MRT, because you won't be able to use this MRT, the Cross Island Line, as yet. Okay. So in terms of connectivity, right, what the developer actually wants for people who stay at Aurelle is really the connection all along the Cross Island Line itself. Because what happens is that the Tampines North MRT is just a few minutes walk away. Within one station, you get to Pasir Ris. Within a couple of stations, you're already at Jewel Changi Airport. And then if we backtrack, we go to Hougang, Ang Mo Kio, Bright Hill. Okay, if you notice the Cross Island Line, right, it's actually stretching all the way from Jurong. It cuts across the Central and Bright Hill area, and then it goes all the way to the east. Essentially, right, you can get to anywhere in Singapore essentially with this line, because it has a lot of other intersections to Serangoon, Bishan, even all the way to Stevens. And once the full line is constructed down to Jurong, right, you can actually travel all the way to Jurong Port itself as well. It's going to be a really convenient line for people who actually work along this area. It's actually like PRE but cutting across the entire island itself. In terms of malls and all that, right, firstly you have Parktown that's coming up. It's actually an integrated development with condos, and it's also launching this month, just so you know. It's going to be like integrated development below as well as condos on top, okay? And if you see this, what happens is that Courts, IKEA is only a 5 minutes drive. Shopping malls wise, you get a lot of malls within just 5 to 10 minutes drive as well. You have Tampines 1, you have Century Square, and our Tampines Hub. So all these are really the connectivity that you actually have when you stay at Aurelle itself. However, of course, a lot of people will be saying that, why are they say all 5 to 10 minutes drive, but then the number of car park lots is actually lesser. So yep, that's probably something of a concern for those who have a car. Otherwise, for those who actually don't own a car, I guess it's probably easier to take a Grab or a shared drive or whatever over to this area if you really want to go shopping and all that here as well. Okay. Now let's take a look at schools in the vicinity. So far from what the developer has told us, right, within 1 km there's Angsana Primary, Elias Park and Parkview Primary. Within 1 to 2 km there's Meridian Primary, Hoi Ching, St. Hilda's and Gongshan. Hoi Ching, St. Hilda's, Gongshan, they are actually one of the more popular schools in Tampines itself, okay? So within 1 to 2 km you get this view, but of course some people may want to stay within 1 km. So probably that could be a concern that it's 1 to 2 and not 1 km itself, because it kind of defeat the purpose. So for those who are actually planning to buy for primary school, do take note that this project unfortunately is not within 1 km, but it's within 1 to 2 km of the top few schools in Tampines that I've mentioned, Hoi Ching, St. Hilda's as well as Gongshan. Whereas for tertiary as well, you have Meridian JC, you have Temasek Poly, and you have UWC in the area itself. So for those who want to rent out in future to expats, you actually have UWC, which is in the area. As you know, most of the international schools have now shifted up to OCR areas in Singapore, like American School being in Woodlands and all that. So a lot of the international schools have now shifted further away because rents are just really high in the central areas. Okay, so now we'll talk about the developer's track records. As you know, this project is actually developed by Xinlian. So Xinlian is actually famous for having very good and efficient layouts. I've actually been to a lot of their projects. I even resold them after a TOP, so I can guarantee you this is something that most buyers in future will want to look out for. I recently sold off a 4-bedder at Treasure at Tampines. This was one of their signature projects. Their other projects include Emerald at Katong, which had a 98% take-up rate even on the first day itself. There's also Clover Ballet Park in Bishan. There's Waterview in Tampines, and also Treasure Trove in Punggol. So as you can see, their projects are very much welcomed by people, especially own stay folks who actually want a good size space. And I'll show you later in the floor plans what I mean by that, because they really know how to maximize and plan out the floor plans itself. Next, let's take a look at the EC price trend. This is something that of course a lot of people are very concerned with, because ECs are becoming as expensive or even more expensive than condos already. When I first started out helping my clients to sell, one of the first few ECs that I remember selling was Osville, and the launch price was only about 300 to 400 PSF, and we sold it at MOP for about 700 to 800. So you can see there's always a doubling up, okay? And then the most recent EC that I sold was 100 Palms. So 100 Palms, same. They actually bought about 700 to 800 per square feet, and this was the Yio Chu Kang Road EC. The land was only 300 something, but the developer sold it fully on the first day itself, 700 to 800 PSF. And recently I just sold it for about 1,008 as well in the second-hand market. So as you can see, every time an EC launches, right, by the time it hits the 5-year MOP, it's been about maybe 8 years since the launch, the price seems to have doubled all the time. So last time it was sold for about 700 to 800, and then 100 Palms, because it's right opposite Aurelle side, I actually sold it for about 1,008 plus PSF. So in fact, a lot of the owners are now asking 1,008. They're all asking for about 1,009 to 2,000 PSF itself. So you can see for ECs, once you buy in at a certain per square feet, after a certain number of years, it tends to have this doubling effect, and it still is cheaper than the other new launches. For example, right now we are over here. The developer bought it for 768, so we're looking at about maybe say 1,006 to 1,007 as a sale price when they actually sell it in the launch itself. And it is still cheaper than Parktown, which is expected to be maybe about 2,000, 2,002 per square feet, because it's an integrated development that has a community center, it's a bus interchange and MRT right below. And just imagine you are just 5 minutes away from this integrated development, so you're paying a lot lesser. Okay, so I'll still say that it is still a bargain depending on the unit type that we're looking at. So I'll share with you on my analysis on the different unit types shortly. Based on this EC price trend, as you can see, it just doesn't go down. It goes up, as you can see, and during the COVID period, it actually shot up a lot more, especially like in 2022, 2023. You can see the EC prices have now all doubled up as compared to those that were launched in 2013. I mean, I guess it's the same for inflation. Everything just goes up over time. So as you can see, in just a 10-year period, EC land prices, just land bids from developer, they have actually doubled as compared to those earlier on. For example, I helped a client at Osville. This was at TOP itself in 2019. We actually sold off and we decoupled to actually get 2 investment units, in fact. And then from then on, my client actually flipped the investment unit to get her eventual freehold condo. So as you can see, for EC owners who play their cards right, they can either do decoupling or sell their place to buy 2 different places. For the 100 Palms client that I'm actually working with right now, we have actually sold their unit for a good size profit, roughly close to about $1 million itself. So with this profit as well as what they have put into, we are now looking to buy a landed property. So owners at 100 Palms and all that, they can essentially just use the profit that they have made over this extensive period to divest into 2 different properties or go into one big one, okay? So as you can see, the land per square feet actually has gone up double, essentially just within a 10-year period itself, which means that whenever there's this doubling effect, we might see this happen for the next couple of years as well. We can't really predict, but as you can see, for Aurelle itself is already priced lower than Parktown, because Parktown is an integrated development, is going at about maybe 2,000 to 2,002 per square feet. If you can secure something at Aurelle, maybe say between 1,006 to 1,007, you are still getting a slight discount because you're just 5 minutes away from an integrated development with an MRT and all below, but you don't pay the integrated development pricing. So this is the site plan of the project itself. Basically, it's adjacent to the TPE and is right next to Tenet. So basically, there's only one ingress and outgress, and a large number of units actually would be all 3 to 5 bedrooms. In fact, this is the unit distribution. I would say a good 500 plus units, about 3/4 of this project itself, will be 3-bedders, because they know that the demand for 3 bedrooms in Tampines is very high due to the number of upgraders who are coming from all the HDBs in the area itself. That's why the developer actually built 3 and 4-bedder as the majority stake in this condo itself. Now let's take a look at the views of this project. Now, because it's adjacent to the TPE, right, so the units that are actually facing northwards, you actually get a pretty unblocked view, but you may get noise from the TPE itself, okay? And right next to you is actually the electrical substation. So for those people who are concerned about substation, I wouldn't pick units that are right at the forefront next to the substation itself, although you get a much better view, okay? And then at the very back, I would say to the west side of the project itself, you actually get a view of the Tampines interchange. So this interchange, don't forget, is only temporary. Once Parktown over here is up, the interchange will shift under this, and this land will be now freed up by the government to actually start selling it on a government land scale basis, probably as a condo or also EC, to actually cater to the demand in this area. So this bus interchange won't stay forever. It's likely to be under Parktown once Parktown is actually ready. And then let's say if you look at the back view, you're actually looking at other HDBs in the vicinity, in the Tampines vicinity. So all around, pretty much, there won't be any blockage, unblocked views, unfortunately, unless you're looking at those facing the expressway. Likewise for here, let's say if you're looking towards the guardhouse side, you're also facing other HDB blocks in the area in the Tampines Street 62 or in the Tenet. And Tenet, as you know, is already fully sold. They are going to TOP in the next 1 or 2 years, so they're going to TOP a lot quicker than us. Okay. So unit views itself, as you can see, so Tenet is over here and it's located right next to us. As you can see, those who want an unblocked view, you have to look at the TPE side, but you will actually oversee the electrical substation, so some people have concerns about that. So I suggest for people who have those concerns, go into the garden view or pool view. However, the garden and pool view, there will be mainly stacks that will look inwards or outwards, because there's actually 3 pools mainly. You have this pool view here, the ones facing inwards, or the ones facing to the third pool. So these are the few pools that you can actually possibly look at. And like I mentioned, once you step out, it is the bus interchange over here, and then Parktown is just somewhere here. And this site is reserved for high-rise development. So there will be still a lot of incoming developments over the next couple of years, which is the same for most ECs like Otoro, Nova Place and all that. They're always surrounded by a lot of other BTO projects and high-rise buildings, so don't expect to get any unblocked views in the area itself. So now I'm going to talk about the block-to-block distance that I actually saw in the site plan. What I noticed, right, which is a concern for me, is that the block-to-block distance is really very narrow. It's only 22 meters to Tenet, and within the blocks itself, it's only 21, 20, and 19 meters, which is really very narrow. I mean, to be honest, if I'm paying so much to stay in a condo, and my neighbor is right opposite, you might as well just put their balcony to join mine if it's going to be that close. So for 20 meters, I feel that it might be a bit of a concern. So for those who want slightly of a distance, you may want to pick these 2 blocks facing the TPE instead, but they might be noisy because they're right next to the highway. Otherwise, you can pick those blocks that will be facing towards Tampines Street 62, like inwards. Because those facing the pool, definitely you will see your neighbors right opposite and they're going to be very close. Now we look at the Tenet block-to-block distance. So Tenet block-to-block distance, although it's fully sold, you can see it's 28 meters, 30 meters, 29 meters. So it's still very generous in terms of the block-to-block distance. You don't really see your neighbor like right up front, okay? The one I just sold off, Treasure at Tampines, same likewise. Treasure at Tampines is located at Street 11 at the more built-up site, so it's next to Round Market over here. And within the development itself, right, here is actually the highway already, and then here there's a land that's greens. So that's why all these blocks, right, they will actually be facing greenery. And within the development itself is roughly about 20 to 30 or even 45 meters distance. So for Treasure itself, you see that the distance, the block-to-block is actually further apart. but the block to block for our project Aurelle is actually very close, okay? So this is something to take note. This is something that I do have a concern, because when it TOPs and all that, buyers who come into the area, they'll say, hey, why is the neighbor so close? Like I can basically see them because they're just 20 meters away. Whereas for Tenet as well as Treasure at Tampines, the distance from the neighbor is very much further, okay? So when working with me, I don't like to just tell buyers about the good things about this project. So here are some of the red flags of this project that I've actually noticed that I thought it would be good to share. Okay, firstly, there's not enough car park lots. So what if owners have multiple cars? As you know, this is in Tampines. Some of the owners may be working in town or maybe in Woodlands and all that. So they may need a car itself. So if there's only going to be a provision for 80%, most of the other 20% will have to take MRT. But for the first 2 years, the MRT is not up yet. So that's why there's something of a concern for me, in the sense that probably they'll have shuttle service. They have not announced it yet, but at the moment I would say it's going to be very inconvenient for people who have kids, who have family, they need to pick up their kids. So I foresee that ECs itself, car park lots are already quite a contentious situation. A lot of the owners may have 1 or 2 cars, maybe multiple cars even, so there's not enough parking lots for the entire project, and the MRT is not going to be up so soon. So I foresee that this might be an issue in future, but once the MRT is up, then yes, probably most people will start using a train station instead of relying on a car. So do note, for the car park lots, I think it might be on a first come first serve basis. So for people unable to get a lot, they may have to park outside. Or the condo may have a restriction on the number of people that are parking. The rest of the car lots are actually reserved for, from what I see, bicycle lots and all that. So there won't actually be enough car lots for people. So as I mentioned earlier, the concern that I have personally as a driver myself is that there are not enough lots. There's only 80% catered for this project when it has 760 units total. So there's only 608, including 7 lots that have EV charging. Then the other lots are 5 accessible parking lots, what they call the handicap lots, and then also a lot more bicycle lots. So as a driver myself, I would feel that this is a big concern when I buy into a project where if I have a car or have 2 cars, then how am I going to park both cars? So would it be a situation where I come home and there's no lot? So they could be as well. So the management might probably restrict the number of parking lots. It may be a first come first serve basis, or you may have to ballot month by month. So this is a project where a lot of people own stay. 3 to 5 bedrooms. So likelihood is that most people, if they have family, they have old folks, they will definitely need a car to get around. So although the project keeps saying it's 5 minutes drive and all that, but there isn't even enough lots itself to cater to everyone. So this is something that I see as a red flag in future when you want to sell and all that. When people ask, why is the car park so cramped? Yeah, this might be a concern. Then the second concern that I have is actually the narrow block to block distance. As I mentioned, you know, when I help my clients to analyze projects, I don't like to give just the good, I give the good and the bad, so that they can actually have a balanced analysis. So when looking at this, I feel that the block-to-block distance is definitely something of a concern. When I compare with Treasure at Tampines as well as Tenet, the block-to-block distance is actually wider. So future buyers who come into the project may feel that it might be a bit claustrophobic to see your neighbor so close up front. So that's one thing that I would say is a concern. And likewise, you also have noise and dust from the construction next door. Because you see, Tenet will be ready, then after which is actually Aurelle. But don't forget, after Aurelle is ready, right, the Tampines bus interchange will shift. So it will shift and be under Parktown, which means that this development, this land, will be coming up for high-rise development as well. So it's likely that anyone who buys and stays in Aurelle itself during the MOP period, it might be noisy and dusty as well. So do take note of this. So these are the 3 points that I foresee that will be the concerns of homeowners when choosing a unit in this project itself. So now these are the red flags. Let's go and take a look at the floor plans to see if they are a lot better and how to optimize space. I'll start with the 3-bedroom analysis. So the 3 bedrooms, right, start from 840 square feet. So 840 square feet, let's say it's starting from 1006 PSF, is probably from about 1.34 and up. As you can see, majority of the units in the project itself actually are the 3-bedder compact. So this 3-bedder compact, right, once you actually step in, it's got pretty good size. You still have a bomb shelter, an enclosable kitchen, spacious living area and a balcony space. And what we see is that you have good sized bedrooms that can all put a queen size bed. So the size is actually well optimized. And as you know, this will be the first EC that will be under the harmonization scheme. So which means the aircon ledge, right, they will be as non-strata. So when it's non-strata, right, later let me show you the comparison between another condo. What you'll notice is that whatever space you pay for is what you get. whereas some other condos can be 900 plus square feet, but there could be a lot of wastage in the aircon ledge itself. So let's say we look at Aurelle and Treasure at Tampines, they are both the same size. As you can see, right, Treasure at Tampines, let's take a look at it. Balcony is slightly bigger. You actually have a open concept kitchen and there's no storeroom, if you notice. And then for one of the bedrooms itself, you can only put a single bed. You can't put a queen size bed itself, it's only 7 square meters. Whereas, we take a look at the left side Aurelle itself, you can have 3 very good sized rooms, you have an enclosable kitchen and even a bomb shelter. Whereas for Treasure Tampines, same size, you don't actually have that because the aircon ledge already takes up 4 square meters. So under the harmonization scheme, right, what happens is that the developer won't actually charge you for the aircon ledge, and whatever square feet you actually buy is whatever you can step on. So as you can see, even though they're same size, the size is definitely more optimized for Aurelle at Tampines. So I'll say for this, Aurelle at Tampines definitely wins for this layout because you can get 3 proper good sized bedrooms. Just imagine they're all facing like the pool. Whereas for 840 square feet, maybe 2 rooms are facing the pool, 1 room is facing the back, facing the neighbor, so you don't really have that much privacy, and then 1 room is definitely smaller than the rest. So this is something that when we put side by side, I feel that the Aurelle 3-bedder for the compact definitely wins. Now let's go and take a look at the 3-bedder premium. So for 3-bedder premium, there are a lot more stacks. This one is 872 square feet. It might sound small, but once you step in, you get a pretty good size living as well as dining space. You get an enclosed kitchen with WC and also a household shelter. So this is actually perfect for people who actually need a household shelter space, or if they have a helper. And rooms wise, pretty good size, 12 square meter, 9 and 9 for the other 2. Like I mentioned earlier, Simlian is really good with layouts, with floor plans, and we're expecting this to actually start from about 1.395, maybe say 1.4 plus onwards. And as you can see, there's a lot of options for this layout. Okay? So this is the show flat unit, which I'm actually quite excited to see once they open. And as you can see, all the units tend to be further away from the TP at the quieter side of the project itself. Now let me move on to the 3-bedder plus study analysis. So for 3 plus study, there's only 4 stacks, and I expect that the price will be starting from about 1.48, 1.5 onwards. Okay, once I step in, it will be a good size dining, living space. I have a kitchen as well as a yard and a WC, and also a household shelter. And I even get a studies room. So when I have this study room, this will be helpful because it looks pretty bright, because you see there are windows here. I can probably enclose it up. So it can probably form part of my masters. By putting my door over here, I can convert this to a walk-in wardrobe as well. So this layout for the 3-bedder plus study will be pretty attractive for those who need an additional like study space, let's say for your Zoom meetings, and or you want to create like a walk-in wardrobe in this area itself. And then we have another 3-bedder plus study. So 3-bedder plus study, these are the other stacks. They are also all facing the pool itself. This is likely to start from 1.515. And as you can see, once I step in, household shelter on the right side and a kitchen, I get a bigger study, and this is slightly bigger in terms of the dining space. So this will be the show flat layout for this unit itself. Now let's take a look at the 3 plus study comparison. So what I'm going to do is to put both together and see which one is suitable and which one I'll recommend. So now let's take a look at both. So for the 3-bedder plus study, I'm actually putting both side by side. So the 926 square feet starts from about 1.48, whereas the 947, based on the same PSF, will start from about 1.5 plus, okay? Between these two, right, I would actually pick the bigger one. Why? Because once you actually step into the unit itself, you get a pretty good sized dining space. I actually feel the dining space is important, especially for big families or those who host. And your bomb shelter is tucked at one side. Whereas for here, once you step in, right, the bomb shelter, when it's over here, you don't really get a good advantage view of the space. Whereas for here, once I step in, I feel that the space is actually very wide because I see a dining over here. And what happens is that in terms of spacing wise, I also get a slightly bigger study, which is probably the size of a toilet itself. So in terms of layout, if it's just a gap of about 20 to 30K, I'll actually pick having a bigger dining space because I feel that dining area is actually important. Let's say if I do host and all that, I feel that it's important that my guests don't feel very squeezy itself. So I would personally pick this. I feel that this 947 square feet is the winner between these 2 floor plans. So it really depends on the day itself of balloting, which would you be open to. I would feel that this may be more sellable in future in the resale market because once you step in, you can actually see it's actually very wide. Compared to this, once I step in, I see the bomb shelter here, and then my living is only in this space. Whereas here, the living is a lot larger. You can put the dining even in the middle, and then it still wouldn't feel claustrophobic. So I feel that this layout still works better. Let's say if it's me, I were to choose, I would actually choose this layout itself. I'll choose to top up for this slightly bigger 3 plus study layout. Now let me do an analysis with Aurelle and Tenet. So Aurelle, Tenet as well as Treasure and Tampines, these will be the newer projects. Treasure has already TOP for about 1+ year. Tenet will TOP in the next, as we can see, the building is already up probably this year or next year itself. Then you have Aurelle, which will come up in 2028. So these two projects will likely be the biggest competitors in this area itself. Park Central also gotten the key, so they will actually reach the MOP slightly before Aurelle. But today I'll be just using Tenet as well as Treasure at Tampines to make comparisons. So when we look at the 3-bedder plus study for Aurelle as well as Tenet, let's take a look at it both side by side. For Tenet itself, it's same size, 947 square feet. I like to take those of the same size and make comparisons, okay? So once you enter, you get your dining space and then you get your living, and both rooms are about 8.8 square meters, and the master you have 16.8. Do note this 16.8 actually includes the toilet space as well, so don't be tricked by that. And you get a small size study space over here. And because this is not a harmonized project, as you can see, the aircon ledge, 3 plus 2.5, so it's about 5.5 square meters, is already factored into your square footage. Whereas, let's say I take a look at the left side Aurelle itself, once I step in, you have that good sized dining space that I mentioned, you have the bedrooms, and you have a very nice, decent study which can actually form a proper bedroom. Because what happens is that I could just seal up and then enclose this as part of my master and make this a bigger master. Whereas for the study space here, it's really quite pathetic. Just imagine if I have a Zoom call and I hold it over here, and then my family member walks past me, then it's obvious that it's not enclosable, it's not really that much more private. Whereas let's say if I have a proper bedroom that is enclosable, I think this is a lot better, as a better option for people who really want to have a dedicated workspace. Whereas for this study space, it looks like it's going to be something that you use on and off, but because it's not enclosable, whenever anyone walks past, you don't have that privacy. So I would still pick this layout. I feel that this has a proper study, and you have a WC in the kitchen. So you see you have a WC here, whereas for this layout, there's no WC. So let's say if you do have a helper, the helper needs to use the toilet or whatever when she's cooking, this will be very helpful. The Aurelle layout will be much better than Tenet, because as you can see, Tenet for the same square footage is not so well optimized because they have the aircon ledge factored into the square footage itself. So between these two, I will still pick the Aurelle EC layout for the 3+ study. I think this one definitely is the winner here between both. So now let's go on to the 4-bedroom analysis for Aurelle EC. So for the 4-bedders, right, as we can see just now, majority of this project, 65% is dedicated to 3 bedrooms, simply because they are trying to actually cater to the number of upgraders in the area. So people that have a 4-room flat, likelihood is that they may want to upgrade to get a 3-bedder in Aurelle itself, okay? And for those who have a 5-room flat who really want the space, they might look at the 4-bedroom compact instead. So let me move on to the layouts analysis. So like I mentioned, although 4-bedroom 1023 square feet sounds very small, later let me show you a comparison with a 4-bedder that I just sold off in Treasure at Tampines, and you can see how this harmonization actually benefits the layout plan itself and how well planned this compact can actually be as compared to something bigger. So now let's take a look at the show flat unit. Once you step in, you get your bomb shelter on the left side, and then you enter with a kitchen with WC. Living space, dining space, pretty decent, and also a good sized balcony space if you want to put your dining space outside. Then once you step in, 4 proper good rooms, like the master bedroom and then the bedroom 2 and 3 as well as the bedroom 4. So as you can see, the 4-bedder compact, right, there's quite a lot of it. In this project, as you can see, majority is 3-bedder and below, and then will be the 4-bedder compact. These few stacks are all facing pool, or this one that is actually facing towards the guardhouse. So these are the few that I would actually be aiming for if I was upgrading from a 5-room flat. Although the space sounds small, let me just show you the comparison between this as well as a bigger 4-bedroom that I recently sold at Treasure at Tampines. The price point wise, this is likely to start from about 1.636 to about 1.7, thereabouts for this compact 4-bedroom. Now let's take a look at the 4-bedroom compact. I've actually plucked out a larger unit, the 4-bedroom 115 square meter, which is similar to like a 5-room flat in the area itself. So what happens is that I've recently sold off a Treasure at Tampines 4-bedder, exactly this layout, the 1238 square feet. So once you enter, right, you get a kitchen which you can walk out. This is an open yard. There's actually no windows, but you can actually install windows over here. We have seen some neighbors do that, and then you can actually go into the utility room. So there is no WC for this layout, just to let you know first. And then once you step out, this is the dining space, and then here's the living, and the bedrooms are all on one side of the unit itself. So you have the master, which is pretty good size, and you have two good sized bedrooms, and you have one bedroom that is really very small. And this bedroom, right, as you can see, it can only put like a single bed. So I actually leased out this unit and I sold it. So for this room, as I recall, because of the cupboard itself, you can only put a single size bed here. So it's going to be a very tight squeeze to actually try to have a queen size bed unless you remove the cupboard itself. Okay, a lot of the space goes into your aircon ledge. Your aircon ledge is already 6 square meters and it has a very large balcony. So I'm not a big fan of balcony space, and as you can see, this balcony space even eats into the second bedroom. So for those with kids and all that, you might be concerned because these are actually sliding glass doors. So once you actually open them up, you can actually step out. Some people are worried that their kids may get curious over the balcony and all that. So if you're concerned, do install grills along the balcony ledge itself. So as you can see, even though this is 1023 square feet, now let's take a look at how it's being placed and whether it's efficient or not. Once I step in, I actually have my kitchen on the left side that leads to WC. And then I have a bomb shelter. So I have a storage room as well, compared to the utility on the right side for Treasure at Tampines. There's only 2 square meters. And then next, once I step in, I have the dining space, living space, balcony. And when I actually go into the unit itself, if you notice, your 4-bedroom, right, is 8 square meters. It's a lot bigger than the Treasure's unit. Okay, the Treasure one is only 6 square meters. So although Aurelle itself, in terms of on paper wise, is smaller, 1023 square feet, I feel that it's a lot more efficient as compared to the 1238 square feet, because what happens is that you actually get to save space on certain things. Firstly, it's the aircon ledge that you save, 6 square meters, which is almost the size of a bedroom. Then there's also the balcony space. Balcony space is only 6 square meters, whereas here is 14 square meters. So you essentially have 2 rooms in the balcony already. So that's why when the developer built it, they wanted to make a slightly smaller balcony, but actually put more of the space into the rooms itself. That's why the rooms actually, if you notice, right, they can have 3 in one side and then 1 over here. Whereas for Treasure, it's 2 facing the pool side and then 2 facing the other side. And there's this wasted space of the aircon ledge. So in terms of both sizing wise, right, Aurelle EC, although it's smaller, but due to the harmonization of the GFA, you're likely to have a more well-balanced layout because you can get bigger rooms, you have a smaller balcony, and you still have a bomb shelter over here that can be used as storage. So essentially, you get a win-win situation where it's a lot more optimized, even though it's a slightly smaller space, as compared to something bigger, but yet it's not as well optimized. 2 of the rooms actually face the other side, and then 1 room, you can only put a single bed, but you have a very huge balcony. So if you're with me on this, do give a like or comment below which one is your preferred layout for the 4-bedder. For me, I know my choice is definitely the Aurelle EC layout, although it's definitely smaller in terms of space. Now let's take a look at the 4-bedroom flexi analysis. As we can see, there's only 1 stack in this entire project itself, and based on the PSF, I'm projecting this to be about 1.9 to 2 mil up. So once you step in, it's a dining space and you get a very large living space. So you can even put your dining over here. In fact, they had this dotted out just in case people want to actually have their study room here. You can actually build like a study space or study corner over here, and you can actually put your dining over the balcony because it's a lot larger as compared to the 4-bedroom compact. You can actually put your dining space out here for like alfresco dining and all that. And once you step in, you have a much larger and longer kitchen that has a yard as well as a WC at the back. And then your aircon ledge, as mentioned, is not counted into your GFA. So the total space that you get, 1206 square feet, is essentially what you pay for what you get. We think that this pricing may start from about 1.9, 2 plus mil onwards, and there's only 1 stack of this. Now let's take a look at the 4-bedroom flexi, the other layout, which is the 1195. 1195, right, is slightly smaller, so we are proposing that this units will probably start from about 1.9, 1.95 or 2 mil and up, depending on the facing. So there's only 2 stacks of this. Likewise, when you enter, you get the dining living space, you get a good size balcony. So it's actually pretty similar to the 1206 square feet layout, except that this one has a shorter kitchen itself. So this one has a smaller kitchen, whereas the other one has actually 11 square meters. Now I go on to the 4-bedroom premium analysis. So 4-bedroom premium, right, there will be more stacks available. They are either facing the pool or they are facing towards Tenet side. And the pricing will also start from about 1.9, 2 mil onwards. Once you step in, this is quite unique, this layout. It actually has a dry kitchen over here. So in case you can put bar stools over here, if you want to keep it open, then your fridge is actually outside. And you still get a pretty good sized kitchen space and WC. And once you actually step in, you can actually put your dining and living horizontally. So a lot of people actually like this layout because it feels a lot more brighter. Like once I step in, this is the space that I see. In fact, it's this whole thing. So given this layout as compared to the flexi, I actually quite like this layout because I feel that I get a lot more light inside, because I don't have my kitchen that starts immediately. I get a dry kitchen over here where I can do prep work and all that. And then because this is likely to be glass, you actually have a very nice view from the balcony itself. From here, let's say if you are facing the pool, you get a very good view of the pool once your guest actually steps in. So this is actually one of my favorite layouts for the 4-bedder premium. Now, let me do an analysis for the 4-bedder flexi as well as the Treasure at Tampines 4-bedroom. Let's see how they stand out. Like I mentioned, harmonization GFA means that you actually don't have your aircon ledge included in the GFA itself. So just now I've actually mentioned the 1206 square feet layout. Most of them are pretty similar with the horizontal balcony. Now let's see what happens in Treasure at Tampines. So for Treasure at Tampines, once you step in, you get your yard as well as a WC. And then when you step in, you get a utility at the side that's actually hackable. So this is where it gets interesting, because when you go for bigger unit layouts in Treasure at Tampines, your room sizes increases, but the room sizes at Aurelle doesn't increase. It still sticks at 9 square meters, but we notice, right, the bigger you go in terms of layout at Treasure at Tampines, you have a bigger master, you have bigger common rooms as well. So this is something that I find attractive. So let's say if I were to pick between the 4-bedder flexi as well as Treasure at Tampines, I'll pick Treasure at Tampines simply because number one, I can hack off this utility, and number two, I'm getting bigger size rooms. Balcony space is about the same. Living space, I would say that Aurelle is quite attractive because of the horizontal living room, but personally I would prefer bigger bedrooms itself, so that let's say if I have children and all that, for my clients who have kids, they can actually have a study space inside the room. So as you can see, the square footage for rooms doesn't change for bigger in terms of Aurelle, but for Treasure at Tampines it does increase. That's why I actually picked Treasure at Tampines, because I want bigger bedrooms. You have bigger rooms, you can actually hack your utility, and you actually get a more compact kitchen. Maybe because of the Tampines round market, they don't build a very big kitchen because it's easy for you to actually get groceries and food right next door. Whereas for Aurelle itself, you won't actually have anything until Parktown is up, which will be about the same time TOP as Aurelle itself. So you only get a mall nearby, whereas for Tampines, you get a round market nearby, and then opposite there's Simei, so there's East Point Mall. So it's a lot more convenient. In terms of location, I would say for Treasure at Tampines, for people who want to actually get food and groceries and all that. Some of my clients even send their kids for tuition at East Point side, and then they just walk back home. So it's a lot more convenient, whereas for Aurelle itself, you might have to drive out. Let's say if you want to get groceries, or go to Parktown if you really want to shop. Now let me go on to the 5-bedroom analysis itself. So for 5-bedroom, there's only 2 stacks, very precious, and they're all facing the pool itself, and 1356 square feet. Once you step in, you get a good sized dry kitchen, as well as an actual kitchen that leads to a bomb shelter, as well as a WC. You also have your living and dining space that's horizontally laid out, and all the rooms are pretty good size. So all the rooms itself for the 5-bedders, 4 of them look towards the pool, because these 2 stacks actually look at the pool itself, and then the junior master faces the back. So we are predicting that this layout will start from about 2.1 plus to 2.2 or 2.3 onwards, depending on how the developer actually prices it. So for 5-bedders, it's probably going to be the highest quantum in the entire project itself. So is it still viable to buy in? Will there still be any demand when you want to sell in future? Firstly, let's see what is the demand and supply in Tampines itself. So when I checked around, the 5-bedroom in Tampines or Pasir Ris, there are only 37 units selling. You know, for such a big estate, there's so many HDBs, so many upgraders, so many private condos, there's only 37, which is actually very little to cater to such a big population staying over there. I mean, it's basically one of the biggest areas in Singapore itself that has the most population, right? For Tampines or Pasir Ris. Now let's take a look at the listings that are in the market right now. So for Envy Residences, a 5-bedder is asking 3.2 mil. Treasure at Tampines for a single floor plate is already about 1,690. It's already about 2.8. Okay, and then for double bed, they're asking about 3.6. So just imagine, for people who are looking for a 5-bedder in the market, they're either looking for a flat 5-bedder, or either that they have penthouses, because largely what developers built last time was penthouses. Maybe 3 rooms on the first floor and then 2 rooms on top. Later I'll show you a floor plan to compare which one will actually make sense. But for Aurelle itself, it is one flat floor plate of 5 bedrooms. So is there still going to be demand for 5-bedders? Because 5-bedders is going to be one of the larger quantums in the market itself. Will there still be such demand? As you can see, there is very limited supply. I mean, demand-wise will change and all that depending on the demographics, but as you can see, supply is very limited in Tampines itself for such a big region. Now let's take a look at Envy Residences, the 5 bedrooms. The one that was listed here, 3.2 million, right? Let's take a look at the floor space. Like what I did for Ori, I actually compared and showed where are all the usable and unusable space. For Envy Residences, which is another competitor at the Pasir Ris site, once you step in, firstly, of course, there's aircon ledge, there's bay windows. This was the bay windows era. They even have planter. Next, on the second floor, they actually have an open roof terrace that has a jet pool. A jet pool. It has been raining non-stop in Singapore, so how do I use the pool when it's been raining so much, right? So that's some space that a lot of people don't find very efficient. These days, if you want to use the pool, probably most of them will just use the pool facilities because that's what you pay management fees for, right? Okay. Next, there's also bay windows in all the rooms. So as you can see for this layout, right, there are 2 bedrooms on top and there are 3 below. So it's like a split kind of unit because it's a penthouse. But there's a lot of wasted space. In fact, a large part of it goes to the open roof terrace. So for people who buy Envy Residences penthouse, this is your balcony space or space that you can actually grow plants and all. So for people who want like usable indoor space, then it will be probably Treasure at Tampines from about 2.8, or either that it will be Aurelle EC in future when you want to sell. So just imagine if you enter in at 2.1, 2.2, you are looking to sell at maybe 2.8 or 3 plus in future when you want to exit. So this is basically the 5 bedroom analysis for the competitor Envy Residences. Essentially, you get a lot bigger space, 2,450, which is like almost double, but you actually lose out a lot of this space to the planter, to the bay windows, as well as the roof terrace. Let me just share with you the future profitability for people who actually want to enter into this project. Let's see how it has actually been performing over the last couple of years in Tampines itself. Okay, so as you can see, there was a news recently about 1.38 million profit for an EC at City Life. So a lot of news about how the 5 bedrooms have actually been generating crazy amount of profits. So like City Life itself, this is probably the penthouse unit, very, very large size, and it transacted at 3.2. And this was already in 2022 itself. So just imagine 1.38 million profit for a holding period of about 10 years itself. They held for about 10 years since they bought in 2012. So just imagine what you could do with that profit along with the down payment. Buyers could probably go into a lender or buy 2 different properties, one for your own stay and another for investment. So essentially with this profit, right, that allows them a lot more opportunities on what they can do in future. And you see, if they made 1.38, it means that they have already bought about 1.9, and this was around 2012. So people have already bought about 1.9 or 2 million even 10 years ago already in the area itself. Now let's look at Tampines Trillion. So you see, City Life as well as Tampines Trillion, I've actually sold a unit at Tampines Trillion before. It's walking distance to the Tampines Hub as well as to the Cross Island Line MRT. This Cross Island Line MRT, right, was ready somewhere during the period where these 2 ECs were actually having the MOP. So once it actually reached its 5-year MOP, a lot of the buyers actually wanted to buy in this area itself simply because you have connectivity of 2 MRT stations. You have the East-West line, and now you have this downtown line station over here. So that's why it became a lot more convenient, and then things were building up in this area. So sometimes when you buy ECs, right, it's not just about what's present there, it's what is going to happen in future, down the line, like a couple of years, what kind of developments will come up. So as you can see, it became a lot more convenient, it became a lot more built up because you have a new MRT line, you have a hawker center, you have the one Tampines Hub over here. Now let's take a look at just 4 bedrooms. So in terms of 4 bedrooms profitability, Tampines Trillion, right, the profit amount was about 1.22 just for 4 bedroom. This is just for 4 bedroom. And then you can see for 3 bedders, they've reached almost a mil. A lot of 3 bedders also 800 to a mil. So just imagine if you were buying the 3, 4 or 5 bedders, this is the kind of profit that you are looking to exit down the line. Like I mentioned to you, now even in the current market, people are selling the 5 bedders for about 2.8 to 3 plus mil. So if you're entering at 2.2, you're still getting it way lower than what is transacted in the current market at the moment. So this is Tampines Trillion, and then let's see City Life that we have mentioned before. So the highest profit just now for 5 bedder I mentioned was about 1.38. And then for the 4 bedders, 1.1 plus mil. Even for some of the 3 bedders, the profit was 800 plus K. So like I mentioned, when you buy an EC, it's not just about what's available now, okay? When most of the buyers bought Trillion as well City Life. The MRT station weren't up yet. You know, One Tampines Hub was still not up yet, it's still pretty new. So only once they started staying in, there were a lot more developments, then this area started getting more crowded and more exciting because there's a lot more developments. So I'll foresee that happening for Aurelle at Tampines because currently there's not much going on over there. But once there's a new train line, there's Parktown that's coming up, it's going to be buzzing because the area is going to be where everyone wants to stay, it's near the mall, it's next to the MRT as well. So it's going to be a lot more convenient. So as you can see, this is proof why people want to stay in Tampines. You see the profits, you already know this is an area that is in demand. People are willing to pay so much more over what the first owner had bought it at. And this is what we are projecting for profits, maybe in Aurelle EC as well. Once all the developments actually start getting ready, you have the mall and the MRT and all. So this was City Life, just the 4-bedders. Just now we have mentioned the 5-bedder was 1.38 in terms of profit. And one thing is that for City Life, this will be the other project that has 5-bedders, aside Treasure and Tampines. Even for Tampines Trillion, they don't have 5-bedders. So in future, anyone who stays in a 3 or 4-bedder in this area, if they want to upgrade, they might look at 5-bedroom or bigger 4-bedroom options in the area. And Aurelle is probably one of them that they'll consider. Now, how about Arc at Tampines? Arc at Tampines now is the other side, which is at the other end of Tampines, right next to Temasek Poly. So that area, as you know, there's no MRT station itself, okay? And even then, the Arc at Tampines EC, the 4-bedders, there are no 5-bedders, okay? They have made almost $1 million in terms of profit. Even a 3-bedder has made a good profit of about 700 plus K. So if you are buying like a 3, 4 or 5-bedder in Aurelle EC with a new mall upcoming, with a new MRT upcoming, I don't foresee why you cannot make such profit because even Arc at Tampines that doesn't have a mall or MRT nearby actually managed to secure such profits. So profits wise, I would think that Aurelle will be similar to that of Tampines Trillion or City Life because there's an MRT and mall that's upcoming. So that is bound to actually boost the connectivity as well as the demand in the area itself. Now let's take a look at the availability at other ECs. You know, if you want to buy an EC today, what other options do you have? You have Novo Place that recently just launched. The sales have actually hit about 91%. And for Lumina Grand as well as Altura, which are also in Teng A, Novo Place, Lumina and Altura are all in Teng A. And then North Gaya is actually up in Yishun. So as you can see, the number of ECs spread across the island, right? The next one upcoming is already Aurelle. The rest are already almost fully taken up, or in the 90+%. So I foresee that for Aurelle EC, it's going to have a huge take-up rate as well, maybe 80-ish% even. So from what I see is that people who want to get an EC, definitely you need to act fast, okay? Do go for the e-balloting, put in a ballot slip, at least you know whether you can actually get a good queue number or not. Because I foresee that prices will actually be pretty attractive and the likelihood of take-up rate will be pretty high as well. Now that you've watched to this point, I've actually prepared an exit strategy for all unit types, for the 3 to 5 bedrooms. So leave a comment below if you want me to send it to you or just WhatsApp me for your exclusive copy. Okay, so thank you for listening all this way for my thorough analysis of this project. If you felt this was useful and helpful for your analysis and your understanding of Aurelle EC, or you want to understand a bit more about which unit type to choose on the balloting day itself, feel free to just WhatsApp me. My number is 96320486. You can get in touch. We can hop on a Zoom or catch up in person and I can share with you more on exit strategy and which are the unit types that are undervalued to choose within the project itself. Stay tuned for my other videos and comment below if you want an analysis of other projects itself. And I'll see you soon. Bye!